Hello everyone. So today we are going to implement a faction interface so we can define which faction the character or the building belongs to. So here you can see this is faction 1. We have a red faction, blue faction and green faction. You can use whatever the name you like, and also these buildings also have a faction. As you can see, this is red, these two is blue, and these two are green. So these guys belong, these guys and these blue guys and these blue buildings belongs to same faction. So here we are going to set up the faction interface and also a data table that contains data related to factions, so like the faction name, the faction color. So we will have one point that we can edit all those things if needed, and based on the faction ID assigned to the character or the building, the game will dynamically assign the color by looking up in the data table. And yeah, let's see how to do these things today. Before we get started, I may remind you that you can download the project files of this project and all other thousands of projects I have done from my Patreon page. Once you become a member, you can access anything without any limits, so feel free to check it out. And here you can see all the episodes of this series, the strategy game in Unreal using C++. And here there is another series which I did some time ago, Unreal Engine strategy game using blueprints, so feel free to check it out also if you are interested more in implementing with blueprints. So yeah, let's now get back to today's episode. Alright, so last time we edited the material of the character to support a team color here, like this faction color, actually that's what I called it. So now we are going to actually implement factions so that we can implement things like only the player will be able to control and select the characters that belongs to player's faction, and other enemy factions player will not be able to control. Okay, so for that, first I'm gonna implement a faction interface to get the faction and set the faction. Basically that's all it should do. So let's create a select Unreal interface, implementing top-down utilities. I'll call it faction interface and hit create. Okay, now here we have the faction interface class. So here, all right, now here is the faction interface. We don't really need the C++5. Now here we need to add a new function. This should be a U function. Oh, Copilot giving me suggestions. Cool. And I'll call it in 32 get function. That is one thing. And void set function. Okay, new faction. These are the two functions that I need to set up the faction for the character. Okay. Now we need to implement this in the base form, CLM base form. Here is the header file. Now in order to use it, we need to include the header file of the faction interface. Okay. Now here we can implement faction interface. So after that, here down here, we can implement get function and set function. It's not necessary to use the U function here. So I'll first set void, yeah. void set action implementation, and then int 32 get function implementation. Now let's implement these two functions. Okay. So to set the function, I think it would be convenient if I have a U property for the function. So maybe it's not necessary to be a U property. Well, it can be a U property, no problem. Yeah, I'll keep it blueprint read only. Function, okay. By default, it's 0. Let's call it function ID. That's right. Now here, instead of this, we can return function ID. And here, function ID equals new function. Okay. Okay. So still, let's compile just to make sure everything is working. Looks like all good. Yeah. Okay. Now the next thing I want to do is here in the top down. No, before that, when I set faction, I need to assign the color of the faction as well. But the color, I need to pull that data from a data table. So I need to have something like faction data, dt faction data. But in order to do that, first we need to define the data table row structure. For that, new empty C++ class, let's call it faction data. But here is the C++ class for that. We don't need it. Faction data header file. Now this has to be a structure that we will need this faction data generated.h. And this should be a uStruct, and it's not a class, it's a structure. So use print type. And this I need to call effect filter. We don't need any of these things down here. And this should be extending from like base instead of generate body, generated use front body. Okay. Now we need a U property. Action, read and write. name. We need a name to faction. Could be Roman, it could be British, American, Canadian, whatever, Indian. So faction name, and the other one is your property. Why didn't take the first time? We need the color. F linear color, faction color. And then we need to define a constructor, faction data. Yeah, this should work. What should I call this? I'll just call it ribbon and the default color. Call it low default color, but it doesn't really matter. You will have to change it anyway. Okay, now we have the structure. Let's go here and compile. Good. Now we can create a data table using faction data. dt faction data. Okay. Now I'm gonna keep the name as one. So it's gonna be rebel first one. And what should I call the next one? I need two teams. Well, let's call it like this. That's, uh, oh, that's better. Oh, this should be one. This should be two. For now, I only need two teams. So faction name, they're blue, they're red. Or you can refer to as red and blue, whatever you want. Right. Let's change this color to red, to a bit nicer blue. Okay, and another one too. Let's call it the okay. Give it a right. Okay, now we have faction data table, and then here, as I change the as I set the faction, I also need to assign the color of the faction to the character as well. So to do that, let's go to the blueprint child of this character. Now I don't really need to, I don't really want to do this part within the C++ class itself because it's convenient. It's better to do it here because you can easily select the data table that you want to use by overriding the set function event here. Okay, here we have the set function. I'll call the parent function as well, and then this is an integer. Get data table row, and the row name, this So I'll convert to a string and then string to name. So here we are going to directly get, if it is 1, we're going to get 1 and we will pass row name as 1, and as the data table I'll choose faction data. If row found, I can break faction data row. Here I can access the name and faction color, and in the skeletal mesh here I have the parameter name faction color, set vector parameter value on material. So this is why I want to do this in blueprint side, because everything relevant to this part is set up in blueprints. Okay, and also I want to change the color of this part as well. So here I'll use the same parameter name, so I can easily change this color too. Like this. Okay, now faction ID, can I see it here? Yeah, I can see it here. I can. Okay, so now if I change this and let me set the faction ID, because I'm using 1, 2, 3 faction IDs, so this should be 1. Actually, I think it would be better if I make the default faction to 1 from the character. Maybe not. I'll leave it like this. So this 1 is set 2. But as you can see, you don't really see a difference. That's because I'm not really calling the faction function anywhere. So if I go to the construction script, I can call set faction with the current faction ID. So actually this is only for demonstration. Later on we might have to set the faction as we spawn characters, but right now let's just do it this way. So yeah, see, now if I may, now you can see the 2 colors. I don't like this red. So since we have a data table, we can easily change it here, the color. We don't have to edit the blueprint itself. Okay, looks a bit pinkish. Okay. Now just to test, if I change the faction ID to 2, this becomes red, 3, this becomes green, see? And the selection color also changes. Right. So now I did the same kind of a change to the material of this base building as well. So I will go ahead and implement the faction interface for the base building as well. The base building. So I will do this off the screen and I'll just show you, because it's gonna be same. All right. So here I added the faction interface header file and implemented iFaction interface and added this set faction and get faction functions here, and I implemented them like this. Right now, in the same way, I'm gonna go to baseball. Let me just copy this because it should be same. Oh, not cut. Copy and go to the base, built-in blueprint, paste. So this is turn to custom event. So compile it. Okay, but all good. Go back here, spawn, base built-in. Set faction. Now instead of skeletal mesh, we have to use the static mesh. And make sure to call this section. Now we go to colors from construction script. Okay, now here section, do something else. One is blue, two is red. See? This two will make it one. This two will make it. So now we have the colors. Alright, so that's all I want to do here. But still you see, I can select these characters here regardless of their faction. So why is this texture not loading? I need to look into that. So I can select buildings as well. So I'm gonna work on that in the next episode also. Even if they do belong to my faction, I want to avoid selecting buildings when I select characters. So that also something I need to look into. So to fix the loading issue, here I did this. In the initialize data, I loaded this texture load asset plugin before I use it to set brush from texture. Then it started working. Now you can see here, you can see this different icon is also loading without any issue. Okay, so thanks for watching. As always, updated project files will be available for download in the Patreon page. Link would be in the description below. And if you would like to support my work, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next episode. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Goodbye.